In the age of horrible remakes, reboots, and sequels, this is the podcast where we pick the worst movies from a popular franchise and try and figure out what went wrong. I'm Drew.
And I'm Tyler.
Tyler, what's our movie tonight?
Well, it's the most infamous of all prequels in the Star Wars saga, The Phantom Menace.
Okay, did this name. And I was going through all the old movies and I was like, man, I really hope this movie's a little bit better than I remember it, because you go in and all you remember is just like crap. Like there's just so much bad blood with this movie. And I remember thinking, "Yeah, this isn't as bad as I remember, but it's still so boring." And I think that was 10 times worse today.
I definitely understand what you're saying. We definitely checked the time and checked how much longer is the movie left several times within the first 30 minutes of the movie. So
This thing is 136 minutes long. I think it's 136 minutes too long, to be honest. Like there's probably, I take that back. There's probably 36 minutes in here that's actually like usable. I think the rest of it is just, it's so boring and it's so weird to come in because you think like we grew up with this. This is one of the best franchises, and it has such a horrible reputation because it is just so boring. It's not that like you got Jar Jar being obnoxious the whole time. You got too many politics, but the biggest sin of this movie is it's just so boring.
and it's really completely unnecessary when you think about the whole series. You could have basically summarized what happened in the this movie within 30 minutes of a sequel movie.
Exactly.
So, because Anakin's not the same person from the first movie, Phantom Menace, to Clone Wars. So
Right.
there was really no point in him being in this movie at all, from going to a little kid to a young adult when he changes completely anyway.
Wasn't that the thing? If you like say you're handing this over to like a friend that hasn't seen any of the Star Wars movies, then you're gonna be like, okay, since the Star Wars movies are so hard to like explain to somebody like what order you should watch them in, especially with like Rogue One and like the Han Solo movies about to come out in, what is it, like a year and a half
I
or
believe so.
something. So it's getting even more confusing for that. So I think one of the biggest things is like if you do machete order, you cut Phantom Menace out completely. That way, at least I think Phantom Menace is a little bit better than Attack of the Clones. Even though the Rotten Tomatoes score, I think this is the only Star Wars movie that's like officially rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. Like they has like a 56 or something. But I think Attack of the Clones is the worst. But apparently, if you go in machete order, you cut this thing out. What do you think about that?
I kind of disagree with you with the Attack of the Clones being the worst movie.
You think it's better?
Well, they're both not good, but just watching the movie just now, there was only two major action scenes
That's a
for
good
this
point.
movie, and those were the only, frankly, watchable scenes of the movie.
Have you
The only ones
rewatched?
that gave us some sort of entertainment. At least Attack of the Clones probably has three or four of those.
Have you rewatched Attack of the Clones recently?
I have not.
How long has it been?
Probably about 4 years since I called it on cable.
Okay, I don't think I've seen Attack of the Clones in forever. Actually skipped it when I was preparing for The Force Awakens. I just completely skipped. I went from Phantom to Revenge of the Sith. So honestly, I just remember hating it. You got Natalie Portman and Hayden Christensen. They're so bad in it. And you got the speech about sand and all that garbage that I don't want. At least every time I think of the Phantom Menace, I think, well, at least this movie is super boring. But at the very least, they get a pod race. At the end, they get Darth Maul. That's all I can think of. Attack of the Clones, I can't think of anything that just like I'm so ready to see this particular thing again.
That is a good point. Phantom Menace does have the two iconic things about it that you mentioned.
Right.
Darth Maul the double lightsaber, which just blew every kid's mind when that came out.
That is so damn cool. Like, I remember, I guess we can just go into our history with the franchise here. I remember this came out May 19th, 1999. I think I was in first grade, so that would put you in second grade.
Yeah.
So we were just the right age group for this when it first came. I remember we were late getting to the movie theater, and my parents were driving me and my brother, and I was just about to lose it because I thought, oh no, I can't miss any of this movie. But I can't tell you what happened after I got out. I think I remember liking the pod race and Darth Maul. I honestly, I can't tell you what I thought about the movie as a whole. I know I probably thought it was boring. That's the only thing I can remember because there's no way. How old are you in first grade? Like 5 or 6?
6.
6. So there's no way you put a 6-year-old in front of this movie and it still keeps their attention.
I don't think a 6-year-old today could keep their attention, but I think back when I was back in elementary school that I loved the movie. I think every kid back then loved the movie.
You think
every kid
Binks kept you interested in it?
Oh, every kid loved Jar Jar back then. Then we actually grew up and developed actual taste.
Yeah, I think that's the most interesting thing about like our generation going into this movie because you got all the fanboys who grew up with like the old Star Wars, like I don't know, like 70s through 80s. They grew up and they had to walk into this thing. So I think it's really interesting for people that are like our age going into it, and you're just like, you see it when you're a kid, and you're just like, man, that's so awesome. You get a little bit older, and then finally, I don't know, how old were you when you finally, like late high school? Maybe?
It would probably be beginning of high school.
Beginning
that's
of high
probably
school.
when I probably never really watched the movie, maybe once or twice after I saw it as a little kid, so I probably never really thought about it that deeply. But definitely when the infamous red letter media came out about the prequels, that it definitely awakened my eyes to how terrible they were.
I know, before you showed me that, like, it's one of those things you grow up with, like, certain movies, and some of them hold up. Like, you watch Lord of the Rings growing up, because that came out, like, 2001 through 2003, I think. So you grow up with it, and you're like, oh, these movies are still great. So you just kind of assume, like, all the movies you watch growing up are still great, and they actually watch them, and 90% of them don't hold up. So, I don't know. It's a very interesting franchise, because overall you got some really great movies. Like, the original Star Wars is great, Empire Strikes Back, one of the best. Have you rewatched the original franchise lately?
Yes, it holds up. It's still very good.
Yeah. I'd say most of Return of the Jedi is still holding up. I don't think I can, like, honestly say that I just love Return of the Jedi. It's so little kiddish. You just kind of see through it at this point. But still, like, Return of the Jedi is still a great movie. But that knocks it down a peg.
Should say it holds up, ignoring the special edition crap.
Yeah.
With the edited CGI, it just looks so different than everything else that it stands out even more.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point to pick out with the franchise. So, speaking of the special effects, we watched this on my old VHS. Do you think just because the VHS everything looks kind of bad anyway compared to like we got Blu-ray and like 4K today? Do you think it helped with the special effects because it kind of like muted everything a little bit, or do you think it will look better if we'd have watched it on Blu-ray?
It would look so much worse on Blu-ray.
I think that's the one thing I remember from watching it like 2 years ago, because I remember watching it and Jar Jar Binks especially. I know I was the one that said we're not going to talk about Jar Jar Binks, but I'm coming back to it. But I just remember all the CGI characters, like not the ones with like they're like have a little bit of CGI around them, but they're mostly costume. But the strictly CGI stuff looked horrible. Everything else in Blu-ray, you got the ships flying around and everything, that still looked pretty good. But man, Jar Jar Binks especially, he looks like is that and Jabba the Hutt when they're at the pod race. he looks like he's like a melting pile of jello. Like it's just the worst thing you could look at.
There's definitely some texture problems with Jar Jar and Jabba the Hutt and all the fully CGI characters.
And, and it's one of those things like, well, it's just like a product of the times, like 1999. You're just starting to get into special effects, but it's just so weird looking at like some of the stuff now where it's like it could be there. Like the new Planet of the Apes is about to come out. That's incredible CGI. It doesn't look anything out of place. Jar Jar Binks when he's moving around, especially now, like there's nothing there, and your mind's eye knows it. Okay, so when it comes to the Phantom Menace, what do you think the highlights are?
Number one would be Darth Maul. Just I know we talked about it earlier, but just the iconicness of him. It's still remembered today. The double lightsaber was just
Yeah,
the biggest moment of the prequels, I think.
he's honestly he's one of the saving graces of the movie. Just he's yeah, a lot of people comparing to like Boba Fett. A lot of people comparing to that because he walks on screen, he didn't say a whole lot. He's really cool, and then he's gone. Which is probably the worst thing about Darth Maul is they kill him off so quick. Because if you compare to like Count Dooku and all the rest of like the Sith people and like the prequels, he's really the best you got.
I would definitely say so. Another good thing I'd mention would be the pod racing scene. Was
Yeah.
one of the best racing scenes of any movie I can think of, really.
It's a really good scene considering everything before then is so slow and so boring. This movie, like, it's so weird. I'd say the first like 15 minutes of this movie moves pretty quick because they're just bouncing from place to place. And the ending move, like the last 30 minutes, move pretty quick with the battle scene and the lightsaber fight. Everything else, I forgot how slow this movie goes. So
And all the politics.
yeah, that's just I don't even
Trade
like.
federations, and Senate debates.
Yeah,
Exciting stuff.
it's all the stuff you don't need. Like the original Star Wars is amazing because it's just so simple. Like we gotta blow up the Death Star. That's it. That's there's no politics or anything. But yeah, I really like the pod race scene because it's just I remember I watched like a YouTube video where a guy was like critiquing it and like he's like, okay, they only show it from like certain angles, like every single like pod race. You see the speeder like shoot by, it's just like a swipe across the screen and then it shows them like in their seat. And he said those are the only it just keeps like swapping between those two. But in the moment you really don't care. It's the only entertaining thing you're seeing for 30 or 40 minutes on the screen.
That could be true. It might just seem better because what it's surrounded by. It just makes the only thing with any life stands out.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing goes for the Darth Maul scene because it's just this. You got that and like, what do you think of the battle that's going on? You got three different things going on. You got the lightsaber fight. You got the Queen and her people like running around the castle, and you got the actual like Battle of Naboo. Do you think the other two hold up at all? Do you think they're exciting? What do you think?
I think the Queen stuff was acceptable,
Mm-hmm.
but the Gungan fight and the space fight weren't anything special
Yeah,
whatsoever.
I forgot about the space fight too. I would say I really like the way everything looks. I don't know. I know that might be like a big critique of most people, but I think the robots, the way they look, is pretty
The
cool.
droids,
The
yes.
droids, they look cool, even though they're like cardboard. Like everyone just like cuts through them. But
Droidicas were like pretty awesome design though.
yeah, that's a really cool design, and they're actually intimidating. Like when you first see them, they like start shooting at the Jedi, and the Jedi do that weird like speed across the screen
That's
thing.
never used again.
Never used again, never explained. But yeah, those are cool. I really like the way the ships look. Like they're so much different looking than like the X-wings in the original trilogy.
The Naboo frigate and the Naboo fighter. Is that what you're talking about?
Look at you, you did your homic.
Oh, I don't. That might not be the official name of them. I was just.
Oh, But yeah, and they're one of the things that the new Battlefront comes out in a little while. I'm not really sure of the release date, but I'm really glad because the first Battlefront for like the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One is a mess. Like it's so limited on like all the extra stuff you can get. It's just like the original trilogy and that's it. Battlefront 2 is bringing all of it back, especially the stuff from the prequels. That's really cool. I'm really looking forward to that because I think the spaceships look cool. I think the droids look cool. Um, that's another like redeeming thing about this movie. It looks cool to look at, even if they never really do anything of any substance.
I think that's some of the best stuff that the prequels bought us was video games, like you were
Yeah,
talking about earlier. Like just the Phantom Menace video game, the pod racing game was
that's great.
for the N64. I remember playing that one a lot. I think that was my only racing game I had for the N64 for the longest time.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a fun game. The Battlefront games, like
The
I
original
mentioned,
Battlefront games are
those games are
amazing.
great. Especially, we can probably talk about it now. Like once you start getting into like the more Revenge of the Sith stuff, like all the stuff that brings too. Once again, I think there's a lot more droids in Attack of the Clones, right? Like don't they bring a
Super
few?
battle
Yeah, the
droids.
super battle droids and all that.
Watch
So
those wrist rockets.
exactly. But yeah, like the prequels, at least it was fun to grow up with them because you're so naive that you really didn't know what the quality of them was. So now it's cool. Like it's interesting to look back and like nostalgia kind of like covers a lot of it, and we got a lot of good things, like you said, with all the video games.
One final good thing the prequels brought us is the recent surge of prequel memes that you'll see online. Have you
Yeah,
seen a lot of those yet?
the I think one of my favorite one was it was a meme of a kid falling asleep, and it's like in your lifetime, each person swallows at least five Attack of the Clones DVDs.
I don't think I've seen that one. But I'm talking more of the. Have you ever heard this story of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
Yeah, that's so good. There was one I saw was somebody messed with their friend's phone that like every time they text hey, it sent that entire speech he gives to Anakin. So it keeps like sending that one paragraph over and over again. He can't figure out why. But yeah, so I think the Phantom Menace is not without merit. It offers like a few cool things. Once again, you get to Attack of the Clones. I don't think it has anything of merit. Do you?
No.
Okay. Revenge of the Sith, I think is actually like a pretty decent movie. What do you think?
It's. I wouldn't say so. I've watched it pretty recently and
Mm,
it didn't keep my attention much at all.
I I would say I like the fights more. The special effects have definitely improved. You got 6 years apart from this because it came out in 2005.
The
It,
special effects do hold up a lot better than
yeah,
this movie.
I think I actually got like an Oscar nomination. Can
You're
you
the
back me up on
you're the expert
that?
on the Oscars.
But yeah, like I like it a lot better than I like the other two. But that's not even saying a whole lot. Like it's just it has a lot more going on in it than I think the first two do. So I don't know. I thought I'd just go ahead and mention that. What would you say the low points are?
Jar Jar.
Jar Jar. What else? I
I think
think
we talked about every major low point so far.
I think that's right. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna harken back to it's just a boring movie. Like 80% of it is just so muddled and nobody's interesting, nobody's doing anything interesting.
If I'm ever forced to watch the movie again, I think I'm going to try to count how many times Jar Jar says "how rude," because I swear it was at least 12 times
What
throughout
is
the whole movie.
what is with that? Like I think it's like a Full House reference.
I wouldn't be surprised if George Lucas had Full House in the background while he was writing the first draft of this movie.
Yeah, most likely. Man, he is he's just like brutal to watch.
I think he's a big idea man. He can come up with cool ideas, but he's not a story man. I
At
think
first I
this.
thought you were talking about Jar Jar Binks.
No, I'm talking about George Lucas. I think the prequel movies could have been so much better if he had someone or a team of two go back and
Telling him like,
just take his big ideas and then rework them into a coherent storyline that's actually.
yeah, you look at the Phantom Menace, and I think you could actually turn it into something if you just had a few people saying, okay, we gotta cut this out, we gotta cut this out. Like if you just keep like a few core ideas, like of course the Darth Maul fight, you keep the pod race. I'm actually okay. Nobody really likes Qui-Gon Jinn because he's such a boring character. But I think you stick him and Obi-Wan together and just go and get the young Anakin. I think you can work something with this, but it's just so muddled down with like all this other stuff that it just kills the movie on arrival.
Yeah, and the whole fake queen business just really makes no sense when you think about it. And
I bet you he thought he was so clever putting that in too. The next thing was going to be, how do you think this could have been better? I think we just.
yeah, we pretty much just covered that. It needed to be 30 minutes shorter and then scenes reworked and put in different order, maybe.
Give the character. Give, like, you got some really great actors here too. So it sucks that I think Lucas just kept telling people, like, this is the way you gotta play this character. You gotta play him, like, just a little bit more subdued. I think I heard, like, Liam Neeson just stopped taking orders from him near the end.
I don't blame any of the actors for this movie. They had horrible dialogue to work with, and were working against green screens a lot of the time. So I don't blame them whatsoever.
Yeah, there's just nothing to do with like this kind of material too. Like, where do you see the franchise heading now? Like, you know where it went from, like, after this it went to Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith. We went on hiatus for about 10 years. We got The Force Awakens. What'd you think about that?
Force Awakens is pretty good.
You're still holding the deck?
I think it's still.
Yeah.
It won't be a classic by any means, but I think it'll be
Yeah.
one of the upper tier of the Star Wars movies.
Yeah, I think it is too. I know it got like such a huge backlash because I think it's one of those things. It got so high. Everyone was just talking how great it was, and then all the hate came for it later. I think Rey is a good character too. I think she's a little bit too overhyped at the moment because they're already entering her and like she's one of the best heroes of all time and stuff. I think it's too young to call. Like, she's only been around for 2 years at this point.
Yeah, she hasn't had enough depth and development yet to make that call.
But yeah, I think she's gonna turn into like a really great character eventually. But right now, I think she's just she's a good one to like carry everything forward. But. So we had that, we had Rogue One, and Rogue One is kind of what I want to talk about as far as like, so have you heard about the Han Solo movie so far?
It's going pretty poorly from what I've heard. They lose directors and actors.
It's not going good, and it's the same thing kind of with the Rogue One. Like, I think J.J. Abrams kind of did what Disney told him to do with Force Awakens to get everything off the ground. But with Rogue One, I heard Gareth Edwards, he made his own little movie. He showed it to Disney, and then they kicked him off. And then they had somebody else come in, like, rework a lot of the scenes and do all this other stuff with it. And from what I've heard, they're doing the same thing with the Han Solo movie. They kicked off the guys who made the Lego movie. And apparently, just from the get-go, they had, like, they just weren't working for the thing. But it's so weird. Why would you hire these guys that like
comedy writers?
Yeah, why would you hire comedy writers and then they're gonna do their thing and then they show you their product and they're just like, I don't want this. So what do you think the point's like? Why wouldn't you just hire like some little company guy to direct it? Why are you hiring these big name people and then you're just gonna like shove them to the side in the end because you don't like what they're gonna give you?
I don't know. It's strange, especially because Disney's known for hiring. If you look at their Marvel franchise as an example, they're known for hiring yes men.
Mm-hmm.
That'll follow along. The best thing they've done so far is cast Donald Glover as Lando Calrissian. I think he's going to do a great job if the movie ever gets made.
Yeah. Are you a big Community guy?
I never watched the whole series, but I definitely enjoyed him in that. And he was also a writer for 30 Rock, which is one of my favorite series.
Yeah, he's a super talented guy. He's even like they got Woody Harrelson in there also.
Oh, they did?
Yeah,
I must have missed that.
yeah, it's
Did they say who he was going to play?
I don't think so, but yeah, it's a pretty stacked cast. It's just I don't know. Once again, we come back to why are you hiring these guys if you don't want their vision?
Right. Either hire someone that's going to have their own vision or hire your yes man.
Yeah, so I think it was Tony Gilroy that came back in for Rogue One and like finished. He just redid a lot of the movie because that's what Disney wanted him to do. So I don't know. And I think Gareth Edward, like you watch Godzilla, and it's a pretty good movie. Like the characters aren't great, and that definitely bled into Rogue One because I think a lot of the characters in Rogue One are pretty bland for the most part. But he definitely has like a style all his own. So I don't know. I think it's weird that you got these two directors doing this, and they've both been kicked off. Like this is just back to back too. So I don't know. Episode 8 comes out next, and about everything I've heard, I think it's gonna be like the best Star Wars ever. From what everyone's just like saying about the director, it's the same guy that did like Looper and Brick and all those other really cool movies. Once again, not exactly somebody you'd think of to do a Star Wars movie, but he's a great director, and I don't know. I'm excited about where it's going. I just really kind of hope they can get it together.
How they're making these, we won't call them prequel movies, but these
The one-offs.
the one-offs. Is there anything you want to see in a future one-off?
Well, I know they had that Boba Fett movie at some point, and then they dropped it. The Han Solo movie, I guess I'm looking forward to it only if I'd start hearing better things. They got Ron Howard to like pick up for it now. So I'm wondering how that's gonna work out. But what would you like to see?
I really didn't have an answer to the question I asked. Let's see if you have any cool ideas.
Well, that's about it as far as everything on the schedule. So, all right, thanks for listening, guys.
You called me late at night, I thought it was the truth.